Hello everyone, welcome back to Netcode-Hub channel. In this video we are going to talk about .NET, that is the .NET 7 Web API role-based authorization with JSON Web Token, that is JWT, right? This is a part 2 of the JWT, that is a JSON Web Token video. Now I'll link the part 1 under the description. So we are going to move on from the part 1, going to continue on, then we finish it up over here. So as I said, I'm going to leave a link over there. So if you haven't watched that, please make sure you watch that to have the concept. How do you create password hash? How do you add password sort? How do you create JSON token? So here it is, how do you implement it here? And that's what we're going to take a look, and that is known as a role-based authorization. Okay, so to just glance you through what we did in the previous video, we created some models over here. That's the user model and user data transfer object, that is the DTO. And in the user, you can see we have the password hash and the sort. Now when you come to the controller, that's the auth controller. There's an API though, and you can see we have the configuration object here, and that's what you're using to access the app settings data here. That is known as the app settings and the token. Okay, so we use the configuration file or the object to access this. Okay, so aside from that, we had a register action method, and now it is returning a user. This user contains the password hash and the sort. So we're able to grab the user here to register. Now when registering, you have to create a password hash, and so we create it over here. We also have generate an automatic key for the password sort. Now in here, if you decide to log in, we provide your username and maybe your password. Now if you provide your password, what you do here is you first check. Since we are not connecting to the database, the object that you created as a user, we have the previous password hash installed or is kept. Now if you pass in a different password, now you have to compare. If you compare and they are the same, then you go for verify password. So you pass in the password and you pass in the password hash that you stored already and the sort as well. Then we create or we generate a token for you. So that token here is what you're going to be used as a header. Okay, so aside from that, we verify the password. So that's this method. So verify password is we pass in the password sort to just decrypt it, and now we compute the hash. That's a computed hash. That's a password hash. We get it back to normal, and here we also compare it with the previous one. So we compute the current one that the user is passing in. Then we compare with the previous one that we have in application. Do they match? If yes, then we go ahead to generate the token, and that's what's known as create token. And this create token too is going to use the user, which contains the password hash, and the password sort. So here we create a list of claim here. Now these claims here, because the first one here is by adding the claim type as name, and we specify the username, claim type as row. And here we're going to specify here as an admin. For this, we didn't talk about that in that video, so there's going to be a new one. So for now, let's leave this and go to the next one. And now we create a symmetric key, which we're going to get access to the data from the app settings.json. Then we have to get the claims, expire date. We add claims, expire date, and the credentials as we specified over here. Okay, so that is what we did in the previous video, so you can just check that one out. And as I said earlier on, I'm going to leave a link to that video under the description, so you can just go in there and watch that before you come to this video for you to get the full concept. Okay, I just took time and explained everything one after the other, so it's good, or it's going to be interesting when you watch that. Okay, so let's move on. This time around, they're going to have a role-based authorization with the token that we have now. So when you run this application, this is what we're going to have now. Now you see you're going to register. Now with the registration, if I click on try me out, execute, So we are registering with what username as string and password as string. So this is going to generate a password hash and a password sort. So you can see we have it right here as password hash and the password sort. So with this, we have to now log in. Now this password hash and password sort have been stored, so we can now access them over here. So when you click on login, we are providing the same username and password. So try it out. Let's try this out and execute it. So you can see when it's being executed, you have the token over here. Okay, so now with this token, if you copy this and we go to our site where to read the token, let's see, let's try to read it here. So you can see we have the name over here as what? As string, as we specify, and the date that we specify is over here as well. Now that is the row that we added, so we're going to talk about this too. So for now, we want to know the expire date and the name, the claims, that is the name over here as string. So that's what we did in the previous video. Now let's talk about how do you add a row-based authorization. Now I have in there, I have able to create database, I have create my account, and I have login, I have everything all right. Now on the method that you have, or on the controller that you have, not all things that you want me to see. If I'm not an admin, I'm not allowed to see everything. So if I'm admin too, then I can see everything. How do you authorize people to see the various methods? That's what you know as a role-based authorization. So in this video, we're going to take ourselves as an admin, and we're going to give ourselves maybe a place where we can actually view. Now when we click on that, it's going to check if it is admin from the header. If it is, then it gives us the access to view that method as well. Okay, so let's get going. And in here, well, this is what we did. Okay, so that's for the previous one. Now let's go to, we're going to use an example here. You can see as soon as you create a new project, there's a controller in there that's known as a weather forecast. So let's use that controller as an example for this project. Okay, so you can see when you go to controller, you can see we have weather forecast controller. Click on that. Now if I want to stop, if I want to just stop or stop people from watching, accessing this method here, there are several ways to do it. Maybe if you are not registered, if you are not authorized, you are not allowed to watch or view this. I can now add it over here as authorized. So I can add this as authorized over here. So in that, as an attribute, you can add authorized here. Then as soon as you add authorized, it means the whole controller here has been authorized. You need to be authenticated before you can actually have access to any of these methods. But in such case, we don't want to do that. So this is what we want to do. Now let's go to this. So you can see we have an HTTP verb here as get. And now let's prevent this. So here, let's give comma. Then we type in authorize. Okay, so this authorized. Now you can see that previously when you run this, when you click on weather forecast and click on try it out, you can see you're going to execute. You're going to see all the lists here. Okay, but let's add this authorized here. Let's save this, and now let's refresh our page. Let's check the weather forecast again. Try it out, execute, and now let's see what we have now. So you can see we have an error here. That's a response code of 4500, and it is saying that there was no default challenge scheme found. Okay, so the challenge scheme could can be set using either add authentication or add authentication. All right, so this, okay, so it means that we haven't added any authentication yet. That is why you are not allowed to view this. You know, we added an authorized attribute, so it means that that method here is authorized. You need to be authorized before you can actually have access to that method. And currently, as we open or we run application, we have not been authorized. So that's why we have this error. So to skip this, we have to actually add the authentication services in the program.cs file. So let's add the service, that's the authentication service, in program.cs file. So click on Solution Explorer, now go to program.cs file, and now in here, that's what you're going to add the authentication service. So let's go. Now I'm going to use builder.services. So .add, and that's going to be authentication. Okay, so authentication, and here we need to use JWT barrier default. So let's use over here. Then dot authentication. So let's use authentication scheme. Now aside from that, let's also add one more dot add JWT barrier. Then here we need to specify some options. Now with these options, this is what you want to do. Let's first close this first. Okay, so with the options you want to validate. So validate issuer signing key. So validate issuer signing key. Let's see what we can actually do over here. So signing key. Okay, so let's see what we have to. Now when we have this add the JWT, that's a JWT barrier, we pass in as an option. Then what we need to do here is we have to actually, we are not here yet, we have to set up an option. So this is supposed to be an option first before, so let's like this. So alright, so here, and let's close this, and this is supposed to be an option. So you pass in options dot, then we're going to use token validation parameter. So we set it equal to new, then token validation parameter. Now in here, this is what you want to do. You want to pass in the validate issuer. So you can see it's over here, validate issuer signing key. So that is this. We set this to true. Then we set issuer signing key equal to new. Now you have to use a symmetric. So symmetric key security. So symmetric security key. Then here we have to specify the encoding as we did in the other one. So encoding dot UTF-8 then dot get byte. So with this get byte, let's try to move this to the new line here. Okay, so get byte, we need to specify the location of where our API key it is. And you know it is an app settings dot or token. When you go to our solution explorer, you can see we have with the app settings, we have it over here, app settings, and the name is a token. So that's what you need to specify over here. So in order to do that, we need to use the builder dot configuration. So configuration dot get section. So this section is going to give us the access to, and we need to pass in app settings. Then the name is what token. Okay, so token. Now once we are done with this, we need to pass in, we are going for the value, so we pass in the value as well. Okay, so once we are here, we need to add one more. Then we can now give a comma. So in here, the next thing to do is we are going to validate the issuer here. We set it to false. We set this to false, and validate audience to, we set also this to, so validate audience we also set to false now. Okay, so let's terminate this. That's right. Okay, so now once you're here, what is the next thing to do? We have to add the authentication and the authorization to the pipeline middleware or middleware pipeline in the program.cs. Okay, so that's going to actually allow it to be used, or it's going to call it so that I can just implement what we have configured in. So in order to do that, you see we have use authorization here, so it has to be on top. So because authentication comes before authorization, so use authentication here. So that's what we are calling it in the middleware pipeline. Okay, so now what is the next thing to do again? We are going to run the program, and now we are going to try to access the forecast action method. Okay, now let's see a response that you're going to have. Let's see if you're going to have a response code of 401, which means you are not authorized. So let's try that and see. Because when you go to our weather forecast, you see we have here as authorized. Let's save this. And before that, I want us to get rid of what we have in the auth controller. For now, I'm going to just comment it. That is a create this claim. I'm going to comment that. Okay, so let's save this. Let's run this and see what we have now. Let's see if you're going to have the 401 response when we try to access the forecast controller or the action method. So let's see, let's wait while it gets run. So forecast, and let's see, I'm going to click on try it out, execute, and I see, let's see what we have here. So because we have 401, and 401 means that is unauthorized. So unauthorized over here. Okay, so you can see we have it, and you are not able to see this. It means you are not authorized to see the data in that method. So the next thing to do here is we have to add the JSON web token to the authentication header in the program.ts file. So when we add, then we can specify, or we can assign a row. Then it's going to give us an access to view this method. So in order to add the JSON web token to the authentication header, let's go to the program.cs file. That's where we are now, this program.cs file. And like you see from here, we are going to customize the Swagger UI. So you see this Swagger gives us the access to access this method, right? So let's customize that. So we may have a key where we can pass in our token to have access to the lock or the unauthorized method. So check for builder.services.add swagger gen. Then you're going to customize this. So in order to do it, you need to pass in an option. So let's pass in an option. Then with the options, you're going to add a security definition first. So options dot add, we need to add security definition. Then the name of this security definition here, let's use auth 2. So that's going to be the name. Let's give comma. Now new, we're supposed to add open API. So open API security scheme. So that's what we need to use, and as you can see, it's over here, open API security scheme. We use that. Then let's open in it. Now let's try to have this. So we are configuring with the header. Okay, what you want to see at the header. So description is equal to, let's try to use anything at all. So that's the standard authorization. So standard authorization header. Okay, so using barrier. So let's use that. Okay, now aside from this, we have the description. Now with the description, we can have this in where. So in perimeter location, so dot header. So in the header section, also what is going to be the name of it supposed to be, let's set the authorization. So that's authorization. So these are the header properties that you want to set over there. And the last one is we need to specify the type, and this type is called security. So security scheme type dot is an API key. Okay, so let's see. Now once you have this, you can now go in there and run application. Now when we run our application, you're going to see this description and this name, this under the security definition, so under a header, and that's going to give us the access to see the header information. Let's close this. Let's try this out and see. So let's save this and let's refresh the application. So our page is now ready. So you can see as soon as I click on forecast, weather forecast, try it out, and now execute, and we still have the same 401, meaning we are not authorized. When you check on top, you can see we have a padlock here that's known as authorized. So with this authorized, when I click on that, you can see we have the header. So auth2 API key, standard authorization header using bearer. The name is authorization in header. Now you need to pass in the token here. Where can we get a token? It means you have to register and get a token and pass it over here. So let's go in the register. Let's try it out. Let's use the string. So we've registered. Now you see we have the token, the hash key, and the sort. So let's use the hash key and the sort to just log in. When we log in, it's going to generate a token for us. So let's log in with the username and password. And now let's see, this is a token now. So let's copy this. When you copy this and now go to our page here, and now when we try to paste it here, you can see we have the name as string. This is the expiry date. Okay, so let's see. Now once we have it at hand, let's go to our Swagger UI. That is where we have authentication or authorized. Now let's paste. Before we paste it here, the name is bearer UI. If you check here, we must specify this first. That's the bearer first before you specify the token. Okay, so with this, we have to pass in bearer first, then space. Let's paste our token. Let's click on authorize. Close it. Now let's see. Let's execute this. Now what do we have now? So we still have 401. Why do you have 401? Because we are not authorized yet. Why are we not authorized? Now when we check our application here, we know that our weather forecast, it is authorized, but it doesn't know the type of row it is. So authorized, no rows. Okay, so we have to actually set a row to this before it can be used. So let's add the row base. Now let's add the row base, and I will set row is equal to, so this is admin. So it means before you access this method, you must be an administrator. So if you are not, it's not going to allow you to access this. Now once we have this set, the next thing to do is let's go to the controller. Now let's add the admin. So that user, when he logs in, the row is admin. Now this admin is going to be linked up to the header, that's the token. So it can be communicated between the two, the client and the server. Now let's save this. Let's run this. And now when we create a token, we are going to copy it and now paste it into the JWT.io and see the token or the admin or the row that has been added to that token. Okay, and let's see what if it's going to give us the access to view the data in over there. So let's register, try it out, and now let's change the name to maybe Netcode. So Netcode-Hub, that is the name, and let's change this to maybe so Netcode at 123, and now let's copy this. Let's click on execute. So we have the hash and the sort. Let's use that to log in. So try it out. Now let's align this and let's paste this, execute, and I can see we have the token. So let's copy the token here, and now let's go to the here, that's the JWT.io, highlight this, and let's clear that. Now let's paste this. Now if you check, you see the name here, the claim name is Netcode. Now what is the row here? It is admin. So it means now when you check the row is admin, that's inside the token. When you compare to with the header on this weather forecast, it means the user is supposed to be what, an admin. Now the token coming in, it is an admin. So this means that now it's compatible. We can now view the data inside the weather forecast. Once you have the token at hand, let's go to the application. Now in between or inside authorize, let's add the bearer, don't forget, and add your space, then paste the token, click on authorize, close it, and now let's try to execute this again. That is for register authenticated, and that's the login. Now let's try this out, try it out, and let's see, we still have the 401 status code, so it means we are still not authorized to view the method. Let's find out the reason why. Alright, so here we need to use the options dot, so let's use this. So options dot operation filter, the security requirement operation filter. Now this here you have to import that is a swashbuckle.asp.NET Core, and this was, I think, created by Matt Frere. Yeah, Matt. So try to install this, okay, as a package, and you're good to go. Okay, so now once you have this added, now you might see when we run this, is everything supposed to work fine, and it has to accept only admin and give you access to the person to view what it has in the controller action method. So let's save this, let's run application, and now let's see what we have. Okay, so let's wait. So first you need to register, then we log in so we can get the token. So you can see we have an icon here, and you can see we have the same thing as well over here. To me, this is locked. So if we can access this, we have to be authorized, and we can authorize by providing the token over here. So let's register, try it out, and now here let's use Netcode. Okay, so you can see we have Netcode-Hub channel for our username, and the password here, netcode@123. So let's copy this. This is what you're using for registration, execute, and you're going to have a password hash and the password sort. Now let's go to login, and let's try it out. Let's provide the same thing as well. So let's decide to provide a wrong one. So instead of the password, maybe we have this netcode. Okay, so wrong password. Now let's see what we have. So execute, let's see the response. So let's see, okay, so we have wrong password, right? So let's provide the correct one. Let's paste this, and now let's execute. Now you can see we have this. So now let's copy this. Now let's go to, let's paste and see the header. So you can see we have the name as Netcode-Hub channel, and the row here is admin. Now once you have this copied, let's go to, so initially when we try to access this, let's see what's going to happen. When we try to access this forecast, try it out, execute, you can see we have 401. It means we are not allowed to access, and we must provide the token by using this bearer. So let's provide the token. You can click on this lock key. Now you can see we have standard, that's the name, description, that's the name, and the header. Now let's provide the token. So bearer space, then let's paste the token. Click on authorize, close, and now let's click on execute under the weather forecast. Execute. Now you can see we have the list over here. Now if you check the call, you can see we have the authorization, and that is the token indicated here. Now this token comprises of that is the header and the payload. So you can see this is you can see we have dots separated, and when you move on to that one, you can see we have that it's 3 in 3 parts. Okay, so that is it. Now you can see we've been able to access it. We're able to implement the authorization, and we're able to actually give a row. So if it is any other row that you want to assign, as soon as you create a user, you assign that row to, and we pass it as an attribute on top of the action method. And now if you try to access, it checks the header that is coming in, that is token, does it have a row known as an admin or user or administrator or etc., then it gives the person access to access that method. That is it for this video. Thank you for watching. Our next video we're going to talk about an interesting one as well in .NET 7. I believe by and by you can just watch this video over and over again to get the whole concept, because it's going to help you a lot in order to have authentication and authorization, especially when you have a login, if you want to restrict users from accessing all the methods in your application. Thank you for watching, and I'm going to see you up in the next video.